Kaito is between 25 and 30 years old. He is not a master. He is not a legendary warrior. He was not born disciplined. He is just an ordinary man who realized early enough that if he continued living in a scattered way, he would end up wasting his life. On the other side of time stands Miyamoto Musashi, someone who lived long enough to understand a brutal truth. Whoever does not master himself will always be mastered by the world. This is not a story about talent. It is a story about decision. For 90 days, Kaito chose to live according to the real teachings of Musashi, without motivation, without applause, without shortcuts. Just silent discipline every single day. If you feel tired of making promises and never executing, this video is not entertainment. It is an invitation. Subscribe to the channel, because here we do not talk about quick change. We talk about real transformation, built in silence, the way Musashi taught. Now stay until the end, because the path that changed Kaito can begin today, with you. Kaito's change did not begin with an ambitious goal. It began with a simple and brutal decision: to stop living in a scattered way. Miyamoto Musashi taught that the greatest mistake a man can make is trying to master many things without mastering himself. Kaito realized that his life was exactly that: fragmented. A little effort here, a little willpower there, no real direction. So he decided to do what Musashi recommended from the very beginning: reduce the world to what is essential. On the EAOA first day, Kaito did not try to change everything. He changed the way he started his day. Musashi believed that body and mind should be trained together, every single day, without exception. Not as a spectacle, but as a ritual. Kaito began waking up before dawn, when the world was still silent. This time was not motivational. It was strategic. Musashi said that a warrior must act while others are still asleep, because discipline grows far from the eyes of others. No music, no phone, no stimulation. Kaito began with simple exercises: slow push-ups, squats, holding uncomfortable positions, not to display strength, but to train mental resistance. Musashi stated that anyone who only trains when comfortable learns nothing about himself. Each repetition was done with full attention to breathing and movement. If the mind wandered, he started over. After the physical training came something even more important: the training of attention. Musashi taught that observation is a weapon. Kaito began sitting in silence for a few minutes, simply observing his own thoughts. He did not meditate to relax, but to identify patterns: the impulse to escape discomfort, the urge to quit, the desire for distraction. He did not fight these thoughts. He simply acknowledged them. Musashi called this seeing things as they are. Throughout the day, Kaito applied another direct teaching from Musashi: eliminating unnecessary movements. He cut excess without announcing it, reduced pointless conversations, stopped consuming content with no practical application, organized his space in a simple way. Musashi lived most of his life with almost nothing because he believed excess weakens focus. Kaito did the same: fewer objects, less noise, fewer irrelevant choices. At work, he adopted the principle of total commitment to the present task. Musashi said that divided attention destroys effectiveness. Kaito began doing one thing at a time: no multitasking, no distractions. If he was working, he worked. If he was studying, he studied. Even when the mind begged for escape, he remained. At night came study, not overly theoretical, not superficial. Musashi believed that learning must serve action. Kaito studied fundamentals, focused reading, simple notes, practical application the next day. Not accumulating knowledge to appear intelligent, only learning what could be used. During those first 30 days, Kaito followed an essential principle of Musashi, not seeking immediate results. Musashi warned that the man who chases quick rewards abandons the path early. Kaito did not measure progress by motivation, emotion, or praise. He measured it by consistency. If he woke up early, he won. If he trained despite not wanting to, he won. If he stayed focused when he could have escaped, he won. There were days when everything felt useless, the body tired, the mind restless, no visible reward. But Musashi taught that true training happens when there is no pleasure. That is, where character is forged. Kaito also applied another central teaching, not explaining his path. He told no one what he was doing. Musashi believed that words weaken practice. Kaito allowed silence to protect the process. No approval, no validation, no witnesses. On the 30th day, nothing external had changed, but internally, something fundamental had reorganized itself. Kaito no longer needed to negotiate with himself to do what was necessary. Discipline still hurt, but it no longer frightened him. He had built the foundation Musashi considered indispensable: control over his own rhythm, his own mind, his own actions. And only then, when that foundation was firm, could the true path begin. After the first 30 days, Kaito realized something unsettling. Physical effort was no longer the greatest challenge. The body had adapted. The problem was now more subtle, more dangerous. The mind was beginning to build an identity around discipline. Miyamoto Musashi warned against this. He said that the man who becomes attached to his own image, even the image of being disciplined, has already begun to stray from the path. Attachment is a silent form of weakness. So Kaito adjusted the method. From the 31st day onward, he began applying a central principle of Musashi: acting without fixation, doing without pride, training without defining himself by training, improving without announcing improvement. The morning ritual continued, but with an important change. Kaito began varying the effort, exactly as Musashi taught. Musashi criticized excessive rigidity. He stated that repeating the same movement creates predictability, and predictability is vulnerability. Some days, Kaito trained strength. Other days, endurance. Other days, only posture and breathing under prolonged discomfort. The goal was not performance, but adaptability. Musashi called this not fixing oneself to a single form. In the mental realm, Kaito deepened the most neglected training of all: control of emotional reaction. Musashi taught that a warrior must remain the same in all situations, not euphoric in victory, not crushed in defeat. Kaito began observing his reactions throughout the day with near surgical precision. A sharp comment, an unexpected delay, an unfair criticism. Before, he would react. Now, he delayed the response. He did not suppress emotions. He simply did not obey them immediately. This delay seemed small, but it changed everything. Musashi said that between stimulus and response lies the space of victory. Kaito began to live in that space. Another fundamental practice entered during this phase: acting without anticipating results. Musashi harshly criticized a mind that lives in the future. For him, thinking too much about outcomes weakens present action. Kaito stopped imagining where he would be after 90 days. He executed the day, only the day, with total attention. Tomorrow ceased to be emotional fuel. It became merely a consequence. To work and in study, he applied another direct teaching of Musashi, mastering the basics until they become invisible. Musashi believed true mastery is not found in advanced techniques, but in absolute command of the simple. Kaito revisited fundamentals, relearned what he thought he already knew, corrected posture, refined processes, eliminated haste. He preferred doing less, but doing it right. During this period, something uncomfortable began to happen. Isolation increased. Not because Kaito deliberately withdrew, but because his rhythm no longer matched that of others. Musashi lived much of his life this way, not out of contempt, but because of incompatible priorities. Kaito felt this firsthand. Invitations decreased. Conversations became shallow. Some people interpreted silence as coldness. Musashi taught that the true path does not ask for permission. Kaito did not explain, did not justify himself, did not seek to be understood. He understood that internal clarity is worth more than external acceptance. At this point, the greatest danger of the second phase appeared: fatigue without drama. It was not extreme exhaustion, it was continuous wear. Musashi warned that this is when many abandon the path, not from pain, but from monotony. Kaito felt this deeply. Days felt the same. No visible reward, no clear milestone. So he applied a crucial teaching, continuing even when he felt nothing. Musashi said that the man who acts only when he feels like it is ruled by circumstances. Kaito began acting as if feeling did not matter. Neither motivation nor discouragement, only correct action at the correct moment. Between the 40th and 50th day, something silent solidified. Kaito's mind became stable, no longer optimistic, no longer pessimistic, just clear. He no longer identified with passing thoughts. He observed, decided, and executed. Internal noise diminished. Attention increased. Musashi called this the immovable spirit. On the 60th day, Kaito realized something definitive. Turning back would require more effort than continuing. He had not become another person. He had stripped away excess. Discipline was no longer an external force pushing him forward. It was the ground beneath his feet. Musashi taught that at this point, a man is ready for the true confrontation, not against others, but against the world as it is. And the final 30 days would be exactly that. In the last 30 days, Kaito realized something Musashi taught, directly and uncomfortably. The path is not about improving, it is about removing. He no longer needed to force himself to wake up early. His body rose before the alarm, not from enthusiasm, but from alignment. Musashi said that when mind and action become one, resistance disappears. Kaito entered precisely that state. The morning training continued, but now it was silent in a different way. There was no internal struggle, no mental dialogue. The body moved with simple precision. Each gesture was economical. No excess, no haste. Musashi called this correct movement. Movement that wastes no energy trying to impress or resisting the inevitable. Kaito also reduced even further what he did. This may seem contradictory, but Musashi taught that final advancement happens when a man stops accumulating techniques. Kaito stopped searching for new methods, new systems, new ideas. He did less, but with total attention. Any half-done action was eliminated. At work, this became evident. He did not volunteer for everything. He did not try to prove value. He executed the essential with impeccable consistency. Musashi stated that the truly strong man does not explain himself. He becomes predictable only to himself. Others simply feel the impact. During this period, Kaito applied one of Musashi's most difficult teachings, acting without the intention to win. Musashi said that whoever enters a confrontation thinking about victory is already divided. Kaito stopped acting to gain recognition, quick results, or future validation. He did what needed to be done because it was the correct movement at that moment. This brought a calm he had never experienced before. Emotions did not disappear. Fatigue still arose. Doubt still appeared. The difference was that none of it commanded his actions anymore. Musashi called this state the immovable spirit, not rigid, not passive, simply firm. Between the 70th and 80th day, something external began to happen. People started treating him differently, not out of fear, not out of idolization, but out of silent respect. Kaito did not change his tone of voice. He did not change his speech. He changed the weight of his presence. Musashi said that true authority is not imposed. It is perceived. Kaito also learned Musashi's final practical lesson, not becoming attached to his own progress. He avoided looking back with pride, avoided measuring how much he had changed. Musashi warned that attachment to one's own evolution creates stagnation. Kaito remained in the present, each day treated as an ordinary day, because the path does not end on the 90th day. On day 90, there was no celebration, no symbolic milestone, no special reward. Kaito woke up, trained, worked, studied, and slept. And that was the greatest proof of transformation. Because the man who needs to mark his own change still depends on the past to define himself. Kaito had changed his life. He had changed his internal position. He no longer reacted to the world. He responded. He no longer sought strength. He operated from it. He no longer needed to prove discipline. He lived within it. Musashi wrote that at the end of the path, a man realizes something simple. There is no technique, no method, no fixed form. There is only clarity of action. And Kaito understood, without needing to put it into words, that those 90 days were not a temporary challenge. They were a permanent realignment. Silence was no longer a strategy. It was who he had become. If you made it this far, it was not by accident. Something inside you recognized this path before you even understood the words. Miyamoto Musashi said that true teaching does not enter through the ears. It awakens something that was already dormant. Kaito did not change because he found a miraculous method. He changed because he stopped running from what needed to be done, day after day, in silence. Now the question is not whether you agree with this. The question is whether you are willing to live this way. 90 days will pass no matter what. The difference is who you will be when they end. Most will keep waiting for motivation, permission, or the perfect moment. A few will simply begin and continue, even without applause. If you are tired of making promises and want to learn how to act, subscribe to the channel. Here we do not talk about shortcuts, pretty phrases, or quick changes. We talk about real discipline, mental clarity, and strength built in. Silence. The way Musashi taught. Activate the notification bell because the next videos are not here to distract you. They are here to forge who you are becoming. And remember, the path does not end when the video ends. It begins when the silence returns.